Hey, everybody. We are live here. I'm going to give it a minute for people to kind of jump in. But we're live talking about the Canon EOS R specs that were announced pretty much in the middle of the night last night. It's some interesting specs. Definitely. It's funny because the leaked information ends up being so close to home. It was really disappointing for me. I really wish that it would have been more than what was already said. So there's a lot here. We'll go over kind of everything a little bit. If you have any questions, let us know or let me know. Sorry for the crappy quality. Haven't got my live studio set up yet, so I'm just on my Chromebook going live, seeing if we can talk about a few things. So jump on, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's see here. So obviously the EOS R was announced officially with a lot of the same specs we talked about earlier on this week. Specifically, let me scroll down here. We've got, starting off with price. The body itself is $2,299 US with the new 24-105 f4 lens. It's going to be $33.99. The pricing is pretty much on par with a lot of the other mirrorless cameras with the Sony full frame. But it's got some issues that I'd like to kind of go over. It does shoot in 4K, but just like mentioned before, it does not shoot in slow-mo, no 60 frames per second, no 120 in 4K. It shoots HD 120 and 60 frames per second, and it'll shoot 4K 25, 23, 4 or 23.98 and 25, I believe. I don't see that in the specs here, but I assume that it does shoot in 25. 480 megabits per second, which is really good. It does shoot in H.264. Let's see what else we can go over here. Oh, the crop factor. That was kind of disappointing. The fact that I think it's 1.6 times crop factor on the 4K resolution. It does use the full frame for HD, but the 4K, when it's shooting in 4K, does have a 1.6 crop factor, which is almost the same crop factor as the new GH5S. So it's still better than the GH5, but when you're shooting in 4K, you have to keep in mind that it is going to be a 1.6 crop factor. Now, you might be able to get a speed booster for that eventually when it all is said and done, but because of the new mount, I would imagine that it probably is going to take a little bit of time to get that in place. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works. They did announce that with the new, speaking of mounts, with the new adapter that they're coming out with, you're going to be able to use EOS and EOS-C lenses. So you're going to be able to use both sets of lenses, and it's going to automatically detect when you put a lens on, and it's going to change over to that. Obviously, you're going to lose a little bit of resolution because the lenses aren't necessarily going to be designed for the full frame, and it'll be cropped. Let's see what else we got here. It does have, obviously, their autofocus, face detection. I mean, you can't beat sorry, I'm getting some comments here. Sorry, I only speak English. Sorry. But yeah, it does. It has the dual pixel autofocus, which is awesome. It has a great articulating screen, which is going to be awesome. One thing that I was really surprised about was the lenses. I mean, I was excited for that because I love Canon's L lenses. I think they're great glass, but they are extraordinarily expensive. I know that there's a new line of for the RF lenses, but in comparison, the 50 millimeter 1.2 retails for $2,299. Same retail. Well, no, not even the same. So the 50 millimeter f1.2 is $2,299. And the 28 to 70 millimeter f2 is $2,999. I mean, it just seems very expensive, even when you're thinking of L glass. And with the crop factor in 4K, unless you're going to shoot on your EOS glass, your regular EF glass, you're going to end up having a crop factor of 24. So you're going to look at about 40, somewhere in the 40 range of the for that lens. So you're not even getting a wide angle lens for that when you're paying $3,000, and on this you're getting about a 40 millimeter equivalent. So there's still no official wide glass announced for this, which is an issue for some. It might not be an issue for others. I kind of work around with my GH5 when I'm shooting with that. I do work around the crop factor. I do have a speed booster, so it helps with it. But it's not something that people are going to be happy with, I don't think, until they really come out with another lens that's a little more wide. Another thing that there's no IBIS inbuilt image stabilization. I think that's a big mistake. Obviously, it's an odd choice because most of the bigger mirrorless cameras now are going to have the IBIS. I mean, it seems like it's standard. A lot of people love that feature in the cameras, and it's kind of seems odd to me that they would not have that built into this camera. Another thing is the dual SD card slots. Again, it's just a single SD card slot, no dual. It's just a single SD card, which again, if they're trying to get into the professional realm, especially with video, which because mirrorless is so popular with video, it's going to be a challenge for people that want to be able to hot swap their SD cards. Great thing about some of these other mirrorless cameras that I've used, especially with the Panasonics, I love my GH5 and being able to hot swap if I need to. So, I mean, it's some interesting specs. The camera looks beautiful. I will give it that. I think that the lenses and the camera looks awesome. I think that there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. It's just there's some really surprising things that I'm not really sure why they didn't go a different direction in some of it. I know that people have kind of been all over Canon with the 5D Mark IV. The fact that does have the crop factor, the same thing. I think this even uses the same sensor or a similar sensor as the 5D Mark IV. So that's probably, I mean, I know that's why you're getting that crop factor, which is just kind of disappointing to me. The price of the glass is a little bit disappointing because it's already going to be challenging people to jump into a new whole system, knowing that Micro Four Thirds for the Panasonic and then Sony's line. And then, I mean, they've already jumped into a lot of different camera lines now, and having to jump into a brand new line with Canon's new mount and having to spend $3,000 for a zoom lens is going to be a challenge for a lot of people. There is another lens. Let me see if I can find it here. That's a little cheaper. The 24 to 105 f4 is $1,000, which is a lot more reasonable. Still not a lower end lens like a lot of people are going to be looking for. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes to get an adapter for the like the prime lenses, the cinema primes a lot of people use. I have some Rokinons, and I love to use those, especially when I need primes. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes to get an adapter done for this and what that means. Again, that crop factor is going to have the same effect though. So with my 50 millimeter, you're going to be looking at a lot less wide field of view. So until a speed booster comes out, they may not be able to be something that people are going to want to use. But let me see if there's anything else that I want to talk about here. Let's see. Specs, obviously 4K resolution. Does have a 30 megapixel sensor, I believe is what it was. Let's see, 30.3, I think. I'm going to find it here. Let's see. 1.7 times crop factor. 30.3, yeah, right there. So it's 30.3 megapixel sensor. It's not, I mean, it's a good size, which is kind of surprising why they didn't do larger 4K. I know that the Sony A7 III and I think that the new Nikon Z6 and Z7 both have higher megapixels, and none of them are using the crop sensor. They're all using their full sensor, so which is kind of a shame if you really look at it, pairing it against. I think that they're really setting themselves up to be even more of an uphill battle for this whole situation between not having the IBIS, having a crop sensor, not having dual slots for the SD cards, It's just a few things they're going to have to overcome. Obviously, Canon's a big company. They've been doing it a long time, so they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. So I don't doubt that they will be able to overcome this. But my guess is that after this iteration, they're probably going to make some adjustments, and we'll have to see what happens. So needless to say, I'm a little bit disappointed in the official specs. I was really hoping some of the specs that they had said originally were a little bit different than the leaked specs. Come to find out, most of those specs were almost right on. So I guess it depends on where it's coming from. But it looks like it's interesting. It does use the the LPE6 batteries, I believe. Yep. And it's got a microphone port, which is great. Sorry, my cat's jumping around in here. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Doesn't have a headphone jack. Does have wireless built in. So I guess that's about it. I mean, it's an interesting camera. I'm excited to get my hands on it to really see how it functions. It's hard to say for sure how things are going to look and what things are going to be like until you really use the camera itself. So it'll be interesting to see. I want to see the quality of this glass. They're charging a lot for it, so I really want to see how it stands up against some of the other L glass that they have. But I guess that's all. I mean, we'll update as we get more information and as they release more info on this, and stills and video are sure to come. It is releasing, what, this month, is it? They said pre-order next month, so in October. So hopefully we'll be able to get our hands on it. We'll do some testing against some of the other mirrorless cameras and see how that crop factor really affects us. Man, I'm gonna miss that IBIS. I love using that on the GH5. It just makes for much easier run-and gun situations. But we will see what is going to happen with this. Obviously, with the GH5S, they don't have the IBIS on that, and that's extremely popular. But this is a kind of a totally different beast because there's a lot of things that are missing on this camera that does have. Thanks for taking the time to check this live video out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will be sure to try to answer them. Or if you have any thoughts, or if you just want to say hi, we'll be releasing a brand new video tomorrow. I'm excited for you guys to see it, and hopefully this camera lives up to what Canon wants it to be. And if this one doesn't, maybe the next iteration of it will. Thanks for watching this morning. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.